Welcome back to the Goku Runner Talks podcast, where we talk all things running and want to know everybody's running story. On this episode, we have Aaron and Casey Blades. They are the back of the pack pacers for the half marathon, also known as the Balloon People. Casey is a soccer coach and player, and Aaron is the runner. We'll find out how those two became the Balloon People at the Houston Half Marathon. All right, so welcome to my second podcast and my second and third guest. This is Aaron or Casey and Aaron over here, Blades. So that's why I switched it over. So if you're not watching it on video, they're on the other side. So Casey and Aaron Blades, thank you for joining me on the podcast today, the Goku Runner Talks podcast.
Hello, thanks for having us.
So tell me a little bit about yourselves and like your running. So let's start off with Aaron first.
Okay, so I've been doing endurance sport for about 15 years now. It started as a weight loss journey back in 2008, and I've just sort of got stuck with it. I did team and training, or for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, I did the Nation's Try a couple of years in a row, raising money, and then I sort of graduated to doing longer ones like 70.3s and Ironmans. And then I happened to know some people involved with the Houston Marathon, and the person who did this job before us wasn't able to for a couple of years for professional reasons, and he suggested us, and we've loved every minute of it. So we're not giving it up if we can help it.
And how about you, Kate? How about you, Casey?
So I came to running because I've just been a lifelong soccer player. Actually, running was always what I had to do and not what I wanted to do. You know, I wanted a ball in front of me and getting to hit people on the field. So following him and, you know, being inspired by that. And then the opportunity came for me to coach cross country at my high school. I've been the head girls varsity soccer coach since 2012. And then when cross country became available in 2014, they're like, you'd be good at that. You're positive. You encourage people. Can you grow the program? And that was my goal there. And I got it up to almost 50 girls running. Again, and it didn't really matter to me if you were fast or slow. It mattered if you were going to try your best and improve. And so that's the goals I have for myself. So a lot of the people we see at the back of our duty here as the turtles is what I was doing as a cross country coach, so it fits in.
So that's almost like the Kevin Costner story. You ever watch that movie where they started off with nothing, and now you grew to a big
McFarlane, Texas. She actually dated one of the actors.
I did.
Wow!
She was very briefly romantically involved with one of the actors in that movie.
Yeah, Carlos,
and not Kevin Costner.
No, not Kevin Costner. Carlos Pratt's the MVP runner is a Houston guy. So
okay, yeah. Wow. Oh, so he was the guy that was the top runner, right?
Yeah, not the actual one. Yeah, the actor.
Yeah, the actor. So did they actually run? Were they actually good run? Was he a good runner?
Yeah. Well, he wasn't. He was
but
he was a football guy in high school too, and has lost a lot of weight, and again fell in love with running from hearing him talk about it. Is pretty cool too.
And I find that like all the soccer players that I've met that have turned into runners, they're actually like really, really great runners. Do you see that yourself, or?
I mean, we're competitive. So I think that's a natural thing from that. Like the mental toughness is there. But I think for a lot of us, we have to get over the hump of so many coaches use running as punishment that we have to change our mindset about it. And I try not to do that with my soccer kids. Running is not their punishment. We have other things we can do for that. Running is a good thing. It's always a good thing. And at the end of the day, you're not going to regret a run you did.
And on our first date, we actually, the first night we met, we actually had a discussion about who was better athletes, triathletes or soccer players. And she
still don't know, we're still debating.
She doesn't know. But she brought up the fact that a pro level midfielder will run 6 to 7 miles. So like there's a fair amount of distance running just in being a soccer player as it is. Like you can't really get away from it to be a soccer player. You do end up distance running, whether you mean to or not.
Yeah, that's why I think the soccer players end up being the best ones, because they're always sprinting. So they always got speed. They're always like the fastest runners that I've met, because they're sprinting the whole game. And like you said, running up to 6 miles a game. So soccer players are just awesome runners.
Yeah.
So how did you? So did you guys? Were you? So you told me in the little thing you gave me that Casey, you pulled her into pacing the half marathon at the Houston Marathon.
Oh yeah, because when she got out of college, like we didn't know each other when she was in college, but when she got out of college, like she didn't really have the same sort of outlet for fitness that she did when she played soccer all the time. So
Mhm.
I'm on a 15-year plan to get her into triathlon, but she pretty emphatically said that she was not at all interested in it. But I was given the opportunity to bring somebody with me because I knew the guy who offered me the position as the turtle for Aramco, and he was like, "And you can bring somebody," and I was like, "All right," and she was like, "Fine," but I'm not training.
No, I did.
So
First year I did, but
Casey,
that ended up being my first half marathon was that one.
oh yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Did you run any half marathons before you paced? So
No.
how did you know you would be able to do it? How did you run like 10Ks or 5Ks or just
She
or like?
didn't know.
Yes, I did. Again, I was still pretty young when we
Yeah.
started, pre-children as well, and was playing soccer on multiple teams, multiple times a week. I was in good shape. And again,
That's never been in question, but she had never run longer
I
than
haven't.
6 miles at any one time.
That's
So
true.
there was,
Wow.
so we were relatively certain that she could do it. We were not 100% sure yet.
Yeah, that's the science teacher coming out with your statistics there.
You guys have been the Turtle Pacers for the Houston Half Marathon for how long now? You said
2017.
Yeah,
was the first one.
Yeah, this will be 8 or 9 years.
wow.
I mean, and we didn't do it during COVID, obviously, because they canceled the race, and I was actually deployed to Africa during that time anyway.
You're in the Navy, right?
Mm-hmm. I was.
Yeah.
I left my career with the Navy ended in 2023.
Okay. So why do you pace the back of the pack, or you guys call yourself the Stay Safe Pacers now, or the Balloon People? Which is the term you guys love the most?
Turtles is the easiest to say, and everyone seems to understand it because, like, we just say we're the Balloon People. Everybody assumes it's our birthday.
Well, the people who've done Disney know what the balloon people
Yeah,
are.
but that's still a small portion. So, like, if we say we're the Balloon People, they're like, "Oh, whose birthday is it? Is your anniversary?" Like, people don't understand what the balloons are for. If we say the Turtles, for some reason, everybody understands what that means. So, Turtles is what we normally say.
So tell people what the Balloon People are if they don't know.
So we are the cutoff pace. That we are the official last ones to start the half marathon, and you have to finish ahead of us. So as we go by, the aid stations get put up. The streets can open behind us because we're running that cutoff pace that has to happen in order for Houston to open up again.
Yeah.
And for the half marathon, where do you guys start in the corral?
We start very, very last. I mean, everybody, us and Robert and Elizabeth, the cutoff pacers for the full, we all start very, very last. I'm not exactly sure that whether or not they enforce it 100%, but we are officially the very last people to start. So officially, at least, if you start behind us, your chip turns off and they don't record your time. So we all start way, way in the back. Like, we go all the way to the very back where the police are, like at the very back where the last street is cut off and everything before we go. And then we go along. And both of them, I mean, you talk to Robert, so you kind of know how they, like, the police will be, "Oh, well, you're a little fast, so slow down. You're a little slow, so speed up." And I actually ran the full last year with Robert, so, like, I got to see that firsthand too. But the half has its own little thing because the cutoff pace for the full is 6 hours, right? And so the half would be 3 hours, but the half is 4 hours instead. And so the first 8 miles, which that part of the course coincides with the marathon, we actually run the marathon cutoff pace of 13:45 a mile. But then the last 5.1 miles, we walk a 22-minute per mile because we run faster. We run the first 8 miles at the marathon pace, and then we have to essentially burn an additional hour along the last 5 miles. So
And that I knew I could do.
So if people are behind you at the 8 mile mark because you guys are going a little bit faster, that's okay?
Allegedly, no. It's the way they tell us every year is that when we go, they cut it off, but it rarely, if ever, has ever seemed that they actually cut it at that time.
Every year they seem to get a little more strict about it, though.
Yeah,
and I think it's more and more organized, and yeah. So
I think Houston as a city is getting less and less like, okay, let's have all the streets blocked for the entire day. So I think they're getting a little more feisty about actually opening the streets when they say they're going to.
Yeah, last year I actually ran at the back of the pack. I was pacing some people. I was just trying to do 6 hours because I was training for a 100 miler, and I saw you guys. I think I ran into you guys multiple times, and I was like, oh crap, these are the balloon people. They actually have them here at the Houston Marathon, and I did hear the cops like you guys would be like, we're 8 minutes ahead, we're 7 minutes ahead, and I was like, why are they running so far ahead? But like Robert told me, it was to motivate the runners to keep going and don't give up. And what positive things do you say to the runners out there on the course when you see them falling behind?
Yeah, and that's where I feel like, okay, I've done this. I've worked with kids before. I've seen kids in their moment where they don't think they can do it, that we just want to keep them going. We talk about the next step, break it down, chunk it into smaller pieces. And yeah, just encourage them, whatever they need, make sure, one, that they're healthy on the course. We don't want anyone falling out, needing medical attention. But yeah, can you think of anything else you'd say?
I mean, it's probably just because with Ironman, and I actually did the 50-miler at Rocky Raccoon too. I saw on your Instagram and you did the 100-miler at Rocky Raccoon. I did 50.
Yeah, I got to 80 miles, so I didn't finish it. But
I actually
it was tough.
I walked the last 15 miles of the 50-miler. I started to cramp up, and I was like, "That's it. I'm walking. I'm finishing. Come hell or high water." So I walked the last 15 miles, but I'm not as friendly as she is about it. So I yell a lot of military style stuff, like "Let's get up that hill" or stuff like that. And I'm probably a little more aggressive than I should be, but try to instill that sort of like anger to like get you past, like it's just more steps. You can't take more steps. Come on, let's take more steps. I believe in you. Do you believe in you? Let's get going. And because I personally train for substantially more than the half. Like I'm cruising the whole time. So like I've got breath to yell. I actually always end up running about 1.5 miles extra because I run forward and back to get people back, and then I come back to the front. And so I always end up running closer to 15 miles instead of the 13. And so like I'm just kind of everywhere, kind of pushing people instead of just like she's far more encouraging than I am. I'm a little more pushy.
So do you see a lot of like positivity towards you, or are people like hating you guys whenever you guys are passing them?
People hate seeing us, but
they're like, oh no. But
almost exclusively they thank us. And I think some people kind of like the punishment a little bit to like get them past it or whatever. So every year when we're like eating at the HEB pavilion or whatever, some people are like, I hated you, but thank you all for being out there.
Yeah, sometimes they'll be like, you should walk now. You should slow down.
Yeah. We'll be chugging by and they're like, stop.
That was me when I saw you guys, because I was trying to help these two runners finish, and then they were struggling, and I was like, man, can they just walk a little bit more? And then you guys would run. And even Robert said that sometimes you guys would run like 8-minute paces just to because times would change or whatever in those instances. Is that true?
Yeah, the marathon last year, they were off for a substantial amount of time. And again, like I'm pretty well trained up, so I wasn't necessarily feeling it, but they're like, y'all are 10 minutes behind. And I was like looking at my watch, and I'm like, no, we're not. But they were saying, oh yeah, you are. So he and I just like took off, and we blasted through like 3-4 miles at like 8.5 minute pace. And then they're like, you're half an hour ahead.
Oh my goodness.
And then we just walked. So that one was a little strange for me, getting to do both, because we were out there like just crushing dreams, because he and I were striding past at 8.5 miles or 8.5 minutes a mile, and people out there like, what?
There's no way.
Like, yeah, they knew we weren't really doing it, and I'm like, this is what they're telling us, and we're just sitting there going by, and then they would catch us as we're walking as slow as possible. And then at the end of the race, because I don't like to stop and start a bunch, so I was trying to run like a 14 or 15-minute mile so that I could like keep going, because my legs tend to lock up if I stop. And they actually had a cop get out in the street and say, no, stop moving. Y'all are too far ahead. Stop moving for 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere for 5 minutes. And he and I just stood there. And it was different than running the half. That's for sure.
So was that the first year you ran the full then?
Well, I've run a bunch of fulls, but she and I only ever do the half at the Houston. I used to run the Galveston Mardi Gras marathon, because I myself don't like running with 15,000 other people if I'm really trying to put up a time. So I was running smaller races, and then, getting to run way at the back, we're not in the thick of the thing. So like, we're not surrounded by the same number of people as somebody trying to really put up a good time.
So Casey, who did you run with last year, since Erin wasn't with you?
It was Coach Liz, and she'll back, and I know you're going to interview her as well. Yeah. And she's wonderful, man.
Yeah, she had an injury
positive too, and
she had an injury and didn't feel like she could run the full, so she and I switched.
And she is a team and training coach, so
she was my coach the second time I did the Nations Try.
Yeah, so she's wonderful.
All right, so tell me about this Kathy story that you guys have.
Yeah. Okay. So 2019 was the year that she started, and as we're like at the end, and Aaron's running back right in that tunnel chute that's always windy, no matter what, and trying to get people to cross. And there's this old lady trying to finish.
I mean, old. I mean, everyone looks old right as they're about to finish. We're all dehydrated. We're all wrinkly. We're all 5 shades grayer than we were when we started.
Self-proclaimed old lady.
Yeah. She says that about herself. Yeah. Well, that's not us saying that.
Yeah. She is trying to finish at that 4-hour cutoff, and she does. And we walk with her. She doesn't know what to do. She tells us, would you mind taking a picture of me with my medal? I didn't tell anybody in my family that I was doing this, because I was sure I was going to fail. I didn't want them to worry about me.
Oh.
Didn't know that I would even make it. And so no ride was there for her or anything. So of course we take a picture of her, but also with her. And we get her finish her medal and make sure she's good. We exchange contact information so that she didn't have a phone on her even. So I could send her the photo. And then we've seen her on the course every year until
last year. Yeah. Although the way I remember it is we actually ran full sprint to get her across at 4 hours. She was like about a quarter mile back, about 2 or 3 minutes before the end. And again, I tend to run back about half a mile from the end, because I like to be there a little before so we can cross at 4 hours. But so I ran back about half an hour, and after a while, we have a pretty decent sense of how far back you can be and still finish. So like basically she was like the last one that I thought we could actually get across. And it was, for her, it was an absolute, I mean, the way I remember it was an absolute sprint to get across at 4:00:00.
And
wow, that's impressive.
She signed up again and again. We'd see her on the course earlier. She called us her race angels.
Yeah.
So how does that feel, helping out so many people at the race? Or, how's that feel?
I mean, truthfully, it's the reason why we do it. Because like it's the world's longest walking tour of your hometown. So like it's nice to get to walk through downtown Houston and see it all. But like, I mean, I've done a bunch of races. I've done Ironmans and ultra marathons. Like, I don't need to run half marathons. I do it because like the people are fun to be around, and like the people who have the 3:30 pacer, or like the 1 hour pacer for the half or whatever. Like those people don't really need help. You know, like
they're gonna finish.
Like I mean, they're gonna
Yeah.
finish, and they may or may not set a PR, but like these people, the people at the back are like trying to change their lives or trying to recapture some of their old fitness or whatever, or like I was in 2018, just starting a fitness or weight loss journey.
2018.
What did I say?
2018.
Oh yeah, 2008. And like those are the people who kind of need the help, you know. I mean, and it kind of fits what we do as teachers, because like, I mean, nowadays with all the internet and everything, like the kids who are really going to try hard, like they don't need us, you know. Like a motivated kid could just go on the internet and learn all the stuff and pass the tests or whatever. Like we're there for the kids who wouldn't otherwise succeed. And the same thing is true out there on the course. We're there for the people who might give up if they didn't see, like in 2018, if they didn't see a pregnant lady putting in the miles, you know what I mean? So like they're, you know, sometimes they're like, if that goofy jerk can do it, I can, and so on and so on. So the goofy jerk being me, not her. But so like that's what we're out there for, is to motivate those others and to get to do something, you know, fun and fitness that we both like, but also get to support the people who genuinely need it. Like somebody who's going to finish in 59 minutes versus 58 minutes, like that guy's kind of on his own.
Yeah, he's gonna push himself. So
Yeah.
Casey, you ran in 2018 pregnant. How many months pregnant were you?
6 months pregnant. I
Wow.
had It's a girl balloons that year, because people are gonna ask, you know. And
we still get questions. How's your daughter? Like they remember she's a girl.
Yeah, and they ask and remember their name, and like that just tells you the community and like the people that keep coming back to this race, because it is such a special race. It is big and it's crowded, but it, like going through Houston like that's always just so fun. And we go by the art museums, and I'm an art teacher, so I always slow down there and look around at the beautiful stuff.
Yeah. So what are your favorite like points of the race for the half marathon? I think it's a little bit more entertaining because there's more people the whole way compared to the marathon, you know?
Oh yeah.
And even when we're finishing, it's at the 4-hour mark, so that's a popular time to finish the full when it merges again.
It's a reasonable time for like friends and family to be awake, you know.
Yeah.
Because it starts at 7, it's 11 o'clock. People are,
Tell your
you know,
snooze story. Go running into snooze, the restaurant.
Oh, okay, yeah. So some of my favorite things are the little booths as we go by, especially like the high schoolers. I like getting to see the high schoolers, but I like even more that none of them are our high schoolers. I like not being recognized because I don't share a lot of my personal life with my students. So I like being able to maintain that part. But there's a brunch place in downtown Houston somewhere.
Montrose.
Yeah, Montrose. Snooze AM Breakfast Cafe or whatever. And one time we tried to eat there, and the wait was 90 minutes. So as a joke, I'd say about half the time I run in there as we're passing it and put our names on the list to see when we would actually be allowed to eat breakfast compared to when we finish. And like it's always a lot closer to the finish than you think. Like we passed by there about 90 minutes in, and we have 2.5 hours left, and it's only ever like within like a half hour of finishing. It's never long enough for us to actually eat there, but it's always a lot closer than you would really hope it to be.
Just running in there with balloons attached. I'm sure.
Yeah.
They love that.
Well, and covered in sweat and everything. So
are the balloons? Are you holding the balloons, or are they tied up on you? What's that like?
Both. And over the course of 8 years with Robert and Liz, and we're all smart people, not once have we come up with anything halfway decent to keep them above our heads for the entire time. Because like we buy them the day before, and since it's in January, it's cold, so they deflate in our cars. And then over the course of the day, they start to fill back up, but the gas has leaked out of the balloon, so they're already down. And then like if it's raining or cold, more than once we've actually ended up dragging them behind us on the ground, because one time it was like freezing rain and it collapsed.
Oh yeah.
Because it chilled them so much they were actually on the ground. And like
the favorite joke of people is like, oh, do those make you faster? They give you lift.
Yeah.
And
I
at
think
this
I
point,
think
I'm
I've said
going,
that.
yes. Yes.
Or is it your birthday?
That's why we're way at the back.
And they start singing.
Yeah, I think my brother yelled at you. I think it was you last year. He yelled, "You're cheating because they're helium balloons."
Yeah.
I think you were like, "That's not original." You might yell that back.
No, oh yeah, yeah.
That was definitely him.
That was definitely me.
Yeah, I posted an Instagram video about y'all. Robert commented, but it was pretty popular for people like to they don't know about the balloon people first of all, but when they saw the
That's
video,
good. They
crazy.
shouldn't ever see us.
Right.
Yeah. So, should people tell me about that? Should people pace with y'all? What do you suggest?
Okay, so do you want me to or you?
I was gonna say the corral thing. Don't just because you're slow, don't start at the back of corral D or whatever we're in. Go as far, get a head start away from us. Because again, if they start shutting down the streets and stuff, if you can't do that 13:45 for the first 8 miles, you're gonna get swept off. So
okay. Yeah, don't lie and start with the Boston. Don't start with the Boston folks, but like if you're worried that we're going to catch you, then start ahead of us. If you're in Corral D, Corral E, or whatever, start at the very front. We are the very last people to go by. Like you're not inconveniencing anybody by starting at the front of your corral. Like that's another thing we try to tell people is like, the people who like the Cathys of the world who are the most afraid, like they should start way up at the front. Like they should start as far ahead as they can reasonably start, because the 4-hour cutoff actually only applies to us. You just have to finish ahead of us. And we have 4 hours from the very last person to start. And we're the last person to start. So we have 4 hours. So if you start 8 minutes ahead of us, you actually can finish at 4:08.
Will you still get an official time though?
We're not 100% sure about that, but you won't get swept off the course unless you fall behind us. Yeah,
last year I started in Corral E, and I saw you guys. I was like, we need to get ahead of these guys, and we're paced according to your corral. So like you guys said, I think if you get to the front, and you have to be there early, because I went there when they told us to go out to Corral E, and it gets packed. So I didn't get too much ahead of you guys. So I would suggest people to get there a little bit earlier than they say to get there, so you could get to the front of the corral, whatever corral you're at, in order to get away from you guys, because nobody wants to see you guys.
All 4 of us arrive at like 5:30, like, and we have VIP parking and bathroom passes and everything, and we still get there an hour and a half before the thing starts. Like, and we see people pulling in and running up at 7:40 when like the last people are starting, and it's like by the time we cross the start line, we've been there for 2 hours, and like we don't mess around with downtown Houston traffic.
I asked Robert, what would you like for the person that to take over your place? What would they have to be? What would they have to do? Like, who would you give your job to?
I mean, frankly, the guy who gave it to me is back into a position where he probably could. And the thing you'd have to be is you'd have to be overtrained for this. If you're struggling to get through it, you're not going to be able to support anybody who's also struggling to get through it, because they're going to be like, are you going to be okay? Like you can't be in a position where they would have to support you. So you'd have to be overtrained for the position, but also at the same time, you'd have to like commit to the positivity or commit to the sort of motivational aspects of it. Because, I mean, for us, it's 4 hours. And for me, when I did it for the marathon, or for Robert and Liz, it's 6 hours. Like that's kind of a high mental load to like stay positive for every person within the sound of your voice for 6 straight hours, while at the same time running a full marathon or even just half. And, like when we start, sometimes it's 28 degrees, but we have to like be motivating and helpful. And, where's the bathroom, and where do I park, and how do I get started, and what's your advice, and all these other things, which, if you're running the race on your own, you can just be like, hey man, I'm just trying to get my race done. I hope you have a good race. But like, our job is to be that motivating factor. So you'd have to have somebody who was committed and had the mental capacity, the sort of psychological and emotional capacity to be positive for 4 hours while at the same time also running more than 90% of people do in an entire year. So, we know a couple of people like that in particular, but those people are kind of rare.
Yeah. So, Casey, have you thought about have you done any other half marathons besides the Houston, or this is the one you've done?
Five
And it has
charity 5Ks
yeah,
and 5Ks, and our daughters are kind of into it now. So often I like run the inside while they run the real race, and just trying to help them. It's really inspiring to see them fall in love with it and push themselves. And I tell them, like, hey, you're running faster than some of my high school students could, like just it's amazing, So that's my race. I still play soccer, luckily, knock on wood, injury free. I still get to do that. But yeah.
When we first met, she said she had no interest at all in endurance sport, and she has been 100% true to that. Like we do the half, but it's not the running. She's out there to be that motivating force for those people. Like
that's even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a high from just seeing everybody, push themselves, do something that they didn't know they could. Like we always leave inspired, like wanting to come back.
Oh yeah.
So do you happen to see the same people at the back of the pack, or like I know you said you see Kathy all the time, but do you see anybody else that you've helped out along the years?
Few that we know by name. The only ones we really ever meet them by name are the ones at the very end, because we might spend 2, 3, 4 minutes trying to drag them in at the very end. Whereas the vast majority of people we either see as they pass us pretty quickly or as we pass them pretty quickly. So there isn't a lot of opportunity for like exchanging pleasantries other than like, just keep going. You're doing great. That kind of thing. So we don't get a lot of like stopping and exchanging phone numbers while everyone's still worried about finishing. So like I said, we still get people going, how's your little girls?
And they noticed
you cut your hair.
They noticed you weren't on the half marathon pace last year.
I don't think you had. You weren't shaved head last year, were you?
No, I wasn't. No.
And you had hair last year.
I was completely bundled up, and I was like covered all the way. Like as you can tell, me and my kind, we burst into flames in direct sunlight. So I was covered. I was covered. I had my sunglasses and my face covered and everything, but they could tell I wasn't Liz. So most people that knew both sets of us figured out that I was that guy from back from the half marathon normally. And like she said that some people were like, where'd he go? Where'd the other guy go?
Where'd that annoying one go?
So my strategy, because I'm training for my 100 miler, so I just want to finish the race. Do you think it's just better to go at like how much faster before the 6 hours should I go to finish the race and not get swept up? You know what I'm saying? Like, should I aim for a 6 hour or should I aim for a 5:45?
Okay, so the unsatisfying answer from a 15-year endurance athlete is you have to train and then let your body tell you what you can and can't do. Because like I've had a really good experience at Ironman. I've had a really bad experience at Ironman. And like I said, I ended up walking the last 15 miles of the 50 miler, but I finished comfortably. So you just have to listen to your body. Finishing at 6 hours is fine. If your goal is to finishing at 6 hours is finishing. So like the real thing, like a lot of people are like, I just want to finish, but the secret part of that nobody mentions is I want to finish and still be able to walk later on. And so like you have to put in the training, which is unfortunate that it takes so much time, but you got to put in the training, you got to listen to your body. So 6 hours is fine. If in your training, your body tells you we can do 5:45, then that's what you should shoot for. But never, ever, ever try to blow the doors off your training when you get there. If you train for 5:45, don't try to run a 5:30. If you train for 6 months, if you train for 6, don't try to run a 5:45. Like if you get to within a mile or two and you're like, I've got a little more in the tank, then you can push it a little bit, get to 5:58, get to 5:56, whatever. But don't significantly change anything on race day. That's the kind of stuff pros do, and even they screw it up.
Yeah, don't change your shoes. Don't change your nutrition. Stick to your race plan. And I
don't eat stuff on the course that you haven't eaten in training. Oh, Oreos. No. You're gonna get a tummy cramp. Don't do that.
And I'd see that happen with my cross country kids too. It's like, oh, it's district. It's our big race. I'm gonna push it extra hard. And like, yes, we want you to get that PR, but you need to stick to your race plan that we've been training for, and it'll come. It'll come just with the adrenaline, the hype of that race. It'll happen for you. If you try and blow the doors off, you're going to fall behind. You're not going to have a satisfying race.
You're going to blow up and fall out. And that's happened to me a dozen times. And it's taken 15 years to really internalize that lesson.
And you're not going to be great right off the bat. What's been great about spectating for him now is that he is so experienced that I can be like, oh, he'll be here at this time. And look, there he goes. There he is. Mm-hmm. Whereas before it was like, is he coming? Is he not? We don't know. And so again, just more and more races. Don't think if your first few don't go well, it might take quite a few races before you really get the groove going.
Oh yeah.
I think a lot of people end up thinking that like a 6-hour pace or, a 4-hour pace is easy and anybody can do it. But if you're not trained in order to do that, then you might, everybody's not Casey, but people have to still train in order to do that pace. Because if you're just hoping to do it, you're probably going to be one of the people that fall behind.
Yeah. And like I said, that first time I was playing on 3 teams 3 times a week, cardio was in, but I still hadn't put that many miles on my body and it hurt. Like places I wasn't used to using, like I was sore and I should train more.
Yeah.
So
now do you train a little bit more before you run your,
I did for a little while, then the kids came and now I only play on 1 team and I need to train more. I do. Yes.
And people underestimate just how much even a half marathon is. They hear the word half and they think short. That 50 miler that I did, I checked my watch at the end. I'd done 125,000 steps to do 50 miles. And I'm 6 feet tall, so my steps are a little bit longer. But that means a marathon is 70,000 steps and a half marathon is 35,000 steps. Like some people don't do that in a week, let alone in one day. So like even a half marathon, even if you walk the second half with us at the snail's pace, 22 miles a minute or minutes a mile, that's still a long way. Like being on your feet and moving for 4 hours is more than most people can do without having to genuinely train for it. So people underestimate just how much of an undertaking it is. And so for like people who are starting out, aside from doing the training, the trick is finding a way to be entertained that whole time. Like find a way to have fun the whole time. Because if all you're doing is suffering for 4 hours, almost nobody's going to be able to get through it. Yeah. So like you got to enjoy yourself. And it's one of the things we try to do out there is try to be fun just to be around. So like, if you're having fun, if you're listening to music, if you're talking to people on the side, you just keep walking without realizing you're putting in the effort. So like if you can trick yourself into having fun the whole time, then it cuts half of the effort right off the bat.
Has there ever been a time where somebody stayed with you the whole race?
Not the whole race, but we'll see them off and on for almost the whole time. Like we'll leave them behind at 13:45 for the first 8 miles, and then they'll catch us about 3 or 4 miles before the end. And then we might see them right at the very end. So the people we see the most, we might see for like 10 or 15 minutes total in the whole thing. I see her the whole time.
Yep. You're just talking a lot.
So what else, like athletically, are you doing? I know, Aaron, what else are you training for? Are you training for another Rocky Raccoon?
No, I hated the Rocky Raccoon, every single minute of it.
That's because it rained the whole time. It was horrible for you guys.
I ran the first 33 miles and then walked the last 17 and then found out that the medal for it said Rocky 50 and didn't distinguish between 50 miles and 50K. So I'm like, I could have just done 31 miles and gotten the same medal.
That's funny.
But also they didn't light the course. It's in February. Bring a headlamp because
now they say that because of the 100. Yeah.
Well, but it started at 6 a.m. in February. It was dark until 7:30. I brought my headlamp by accident. I hadn't intended to bring it. And if I hadn't, I would have just stood there like an idiot for an hour and a half just in the dark because I don't feel like getting lost in the woods.
Yeah.
But no, I don't enjoy trail running. After Ironman in 2011, I was like, I don't know if I'll ever do another one. And then I signed up for one a year later. But then on our way home from Rocky Raccoon, she was like, "You say that, but you're going to do that again." And I was like, "No." And it's been 8 years, and I have not even one time wanted to do another ultra marathon. Ooh, baby, those are
that team one.
Well, I do. I have a long-term plan to do the Ragnarok, but also the Texas Independence Relay. But that's like with a group of people. I was alone for 12 and a half hours.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
And oh man, and then there were hikers on the path too, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of dying. Can y'all move out of the way?
On your left.
And they're like, look at that bird, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna run straight into you, and there's nothing I can do. I can't turn.
Yeah, I was doing it one year, and there's a group of Boy Scouts on the course. I was like, "Oh man, what are they doing here? Get off!" They're just like trying to get over to the side, and they're pointing at you and look at you struggle through the race. But
when you try to say something, but like instead of what comes out is instead of the manly voice that you think come out as you're 40 miles into your ultra marathon, you're like, can y'all kind of get out of the way, please? Like, what? This is all I've got.
I've always wanted to do TIR and Ragnar, but I've never done it. They're so expensive, though. You're spending a good amount of chunk of change to do that. You got to get the van, you got to pay for the race. So
a friend of hers was like, "Hey, 2 people of ours dropped out. Can you take up one?" And I was like, "Fine."
Yeah. Do you want to do the other one?
Yeah. Do you want the other one? The other one.
I think I'm doing Bluebell for TIR, so I can't do it.
Okay.
But I am training for 2025 70.3 Coeur d'Alene. That's what I'm training for right now.
Is that overseas?
Aerodynamic. Like... No, Coeur d'Alene's Idaho.
Oh, what the heck? That sounds very French.
Yeah. And it's gorgeous. It's already all the hotels are already booked up because it's like a gorgeous golf town and stuff. And like
with hills though, it's gonna kill him.
Well, because I'm heavy. I'm tall, so I'm heavy. But yeah, it's gorgeous. So it's also north, so it's supposed to be nice and cool. It's supposed to be like 65 degrees, wetsuit legal swim and everything. But the last time I did that, we went to Muncie, Indiana, and it was 105 degrees. It was the hottest day they had recorded in 50 years. They cut the race short because it was so hot, and I was like.
We brought the hot weather with us. And I checked
my phone. It was 70 degrees in Houston. It was a cold.
That's horrible.
I'm like, man, I'm gonna die out here. But yeah, so I am still training for 70.3s. Yeah.
Okay, nice. How about you, Casey? You gonna win another championship for your school?
I think this is our year. Actually, we have a good little group. We had our best season ever last year.
Yeah.
Lots of kids stuck around to build on. They've bought into the process. We've got a new weightlifting coach who's awesome. Like, I'm very optimistic.
She's uplifting the youth of America. I'm out here just running by myself.
There you go. All right, I have one last thing for you guys. It's called This or That, and you guys can both answer. You might be different answers, so it's either one or the other. Okay. So this is a burgers or pizza.
Pizza.
See, I make both. He's both.
The cook.
I'm down for either. If I have the time to make my own buns, then probably burgers because I make some very nice smash burgers.
We have a pizza oven.
I was just gonna ask, do you like the smash burger or like a thick old patty?
I used to do the big old steak patties, but now I do smash burgers. But a homemade pepperoni pizza is hard to beat. If like you do 3-day cold fermented pizza dough and
oh man,
yeah.
I don't do anything.
Seriously, do you like board games? You come over, we'll make some food.
Hell yeah, I'll come. Especially with that, you make me some pizza and burgers, I'll be there. I'll be there.
I tell my students that all the time. If there's one life hack for you to know, it's learn how to cook. People will be very accommodating if you make them home cooked food.
All right, the next one is I'm pretty sure I know the answer for y'all, but maybe it's different. It's half marathon or 26.2.
Definitely half.
Full.
Okay.
I mean, especially after Ironman, like I hate to be that sort of fitness elitist or whatever, but like I stopped doing CrossFit because they were like, our workout today is 20 minutes. It's like, well, can I do it like 4 or 5 times in a row? Like I'm not used to working out for less than an hour at a time. So the half marathon is almost too short. Like I know a lot of people are going to roll their eyes at that, but like it's almost like if I'm going to spend a year training for something, like it needs to be big. So
yeah, the training for a half marathon, you could get by without that much training, but the full marathon you definitely have to train for. So
yeah,
I think that's the big difference.
I have never attempted that. Like I was pretty confident in my half marathon ability. I know I couldn't do a full without training.
Yeah.
If I trained, sure, but like that's a lot.
Yeah, and again, it's a little conceited, but like on any given day in the last 15 years, I could have run a half marathon, kind of unbidden, just because I train 6 days a week now, and I'm over a year away from the race, so like I would have to train for a full to do it anything that I would feel comfortable like actually proud of, but so yeah, the full for me.
Next one is soccer or running.
Kind of neither.
Soccer has both. Soccer.
Yeah, I was thinking you would say that too when I asked that question. They both have both. You said neither? You want to do soccer or running?
I like racing. I don't like running so much.
Okay.
Such a good model of like fake it till you make it and like get it done. He's inspiring to me. I definitely feel lazy around him a lot, but like just nothing gets in his way. Like he said, he was deployed. And I
ran 500 miles while I was out on deployment.
Yeah, and that's like in black flag conditions in the Horn of Africa where it's hot, where the air quality is terrible, where it was COVID restrictions too. Like there's just nothing that gets in his way, in the best way. Like it's good. Yeah, good job.
Yeah, I mean, back when I first started, I was a little over 50 pounds heavier than I am right now, and I hated running. Like I still mostly hate running, but
he hates swimming more.
I hate swimming so much.
Swimming sucks. I hate swimming too.
I hate swimming so much, and like now with the beard, when I breathe, it like falls into my mouth and stuff. But so like I'd be out there and I would be actively lying to myself. Like, I love this. Look at those birds. Look at that. Look at that wind. Oh my God, it's a beautiful sunrise. So good. And I'd be like, man, I am just lying to myself.
But you never regret a run
after. No.
Yeah.
And now I like it more. And it's sort of zen and meditative. Like I'll come home and I'll be like, okay, so here are the 4 things we need to do today. And here's this thing I remembered from 6 months ago that I hadn't thought of in a long time. So that we need to like I come home like cleared out, like it clears out my mind and stuff, but still it's like it's still just dragging your meat flesh all over concrete and stuff. So like it's still often unpleasant.
And it's not sleeping in.
No, it's not sleeping in.
Yeah.
But like the moment I wake up, I'm like, I should, or I'm going to be a total load. I shouldn't. I should get up there and do it. And I come home and I'll be like, oh, and everyone will be awake when I get home. Nope, everyone's dead asleep. And like I come home and then I have to sit in my sweaty clothes in the far corner bathroom so that I don't wake up anybody while I'm just like sitting there slowly cooling down with sticky sweat all over me because I got home an hour before everyone else was going to get up.
All right. So, actually, come to think of it, I don't see many Ironmen with beards.
Well, ever since I got out of the Navy, I don't have to shave all the time, so I decided I'd try it out.
All right. So the next one is pacing or racing.
Pacing.
Yeah, both. I love both for either way. Like I do feel like I win more consistently at pacing than I do at racing. It really just depends. Because racing is really good when you put a plan together and you execute it and you feel really good. Mm-hmm. But like especially since we become parents, it's one of those things that you don't really realize maybe until you become a parent or a teacher or something, that like seeing other people succeed is often as satisfying as succeeding yourself. And so like on a race, I succeed for me. And if I'm lucky, I beat somebody I don't like. But but when we pace,
everybody wins.
Everybody. I mean, we might help 40, 50 people directly So they're just very good, but both in their own ways.
Yeah, and I definitely say pacing, partly because I don't really race, right? But also it's just so uplifting. And every year we kind of reflect at the end of the year, like what were our top 9 moments, and we do a post about it. And the half is often one of them. Like I just leave so inspired, so ready to conquer anything because they inspire us back. Yeah.
And personally, I don't like
your year. So that's a good way to start off that's a good way to start off your year too, being helping out so many people.
And even when it's cold, wet, rainy, we're there. Like we're excited to be there.
Well, and personally, I don't like to race in the cold, so I personally wouldn't necessarily race the Houston because I don't like to race in that cold. But I love being out there and interacting with those people and like motivating those people. Like I feel like I'm pretty decent at hiding how unpleasant it being freezing rain can be. But yeah, so like I would have a lot of trouble myself trying to put up a PR or something like that in that weather. But sort of conversely, trying to motivate other people, like I'll go whole hours without realizing that like I'm shaking because I'm so cold. So like it sort of keeps us motivated to do it.
All right, so I think that's it. There's anything else that you guys want to say about the Houston Marathon, balloons, or anything else?
It's a lot of fun. We love doing it. And if you see us, say hi. Try to avoid ever seeing us, but if you see us, we love seeing you too. Thanks for having us.
Where can people find you guys at? I know you guys are hard to find. You guys are teachers, so you guys don't want to be out there. But is there any way that people can contact you or see y'all on Instagram, or if you have any of that?
On my school, and if you want to follow my soccer team and our awesome season that we're about to have, it's Cy Lakes G Soccer on Instagram, on X. Yep.
You can find me at blades_physics. That's my public Instagram. I have a private Instagram because teachers with kids and stuff like that, I try to stay pretty private. But yeah, I've gotten really into air pistol shooting since the Olympics. So I've been doing some of that.
That one guy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm never going to be fast enough to be in the Olympics for anything else.
So who knows? Yeah, one day you can be that guy. So I appreciate you guys on the podcast. You guys are awesome. Thank you guys for what you guys do for the Houston Marathon. You guys are awesome guests. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's going to be it for this episode of the Goku Runner Talks podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, do all those things you can do on the podcast and also on the YouTube channel for me to grow and get bigger. Thanks, Aaron and Casey, for being on the show. I really appreciate the both of y'all. Make sure to check out Chevron Houston Marathon and make sure to check out all the details for pacing at the end of the race and all that good stuff. Don't forget to catch the next episode of the Goku Runner Talks podcast every Monday on Spotify, wherever you watch your podcast. See you guys then.